friends, it's time to keep reading Merlin Mission number 5, Carnival at Candlelight by Mary Pope Osborne. Chapter 3, The Grand Lady of the Lagoon. The gondola glided toward a landing at the edge of the canal. As the gondolier tied up the boat, water was sloshing from the canal onto a wide walkway filled with carnival goers. The gondolier reached a gloved hand toward Annie and helped her out of the boat. He then held out a hand to Jack. When Jack grabbed it, he was surprised that the gondolier's hand felt small under the white glove, like a kid's hand. As soon as Jack had stepped out of the boat, the gondolier untied the rope, pushed off from the landing, and began rowing away. "Bye, thanks," called Annie. The two strangers in the white bird masks waved. Jack and Annie watched the gondolier disappear over the choppy waters. Then they looked back at the shore. The carnival crowd was parading up and down the wide walkway along the canal. "Hey, look," said Annie, "there's a bunch of people dressed like us, and like the two people in our gondola." Jack saw lots of black cloaks, bird masks, funny hats, and ruffled collars. He also saw people dressed as chickens, pirates, and knights. None of the costumed people seemed to mind the water spilling over the edge of the canal, soaking their boots and slippers. As Jack and Annie stared at the crowd, a distant bell began to ring. The bell rang 9 times. "I guess that means it's 9 o'clock, said Jack. Just then, another bell began to chime. Jack counted again. This time, 10 chimes rang out. 10, said Jack, puzzled. "So what time is it? 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock? "Don't worry about that now," said Annie. "I think I see the Grand Lady of the Lagoon." "Where?" said Jack. Annie pointed to a tall woman at the edge of the parade. She was wearing a black mask. She wore piles of jewelry, a white wig, and a wide hoop skirt. Jack and Annie moved toward the lady. "Excuse me," said Annie. "Hi." The lady looked at Annie. "Hello," she said in a deep man's voice. "Whoa," said Jack, stepping back. Annie laughed. "You're a man," she said. "Of course," said the man, "but for carnival, I'm a very beautiful lady, no?" "We're looking for someone called the Grand Lady of," started Annie. But before she could finish, a giant chicken grabbed the man's hand and pulled him away into the crowd. "Oh, brother," said Jack, looking around. Lots of people were dressed as grand ladies. How are we supposed to know who to visit? "Maybe it's time to use one of Kathleen and Teddy's rhymes," said Annie. "No, we should save our rhymes," said Jack. "Then let's just skip visiting the Grand Lady of the Lagoon for now," said Annie. "What's the next thing Merlin tells us to do?" Jack looked at Merlin's directions and read aloud. "To find out where you need to go, seek out a painter named Tiepolo." "Good, that's clear," said Jack. "Let's see if Tiepolo is in our research book." As the noisy crowd celebrated around them, Jack pulled out the book. He stood near a lantern and looked in the index. "He's here," said Jack. He turned to the right page and read. Tiepolo was one of the greatest painters of Venice in the 1700s. He painted bright, beautiful oil paintings for palaces and villas. "If the guy's so famous, people must know where he lives," said Annie. "Excuse me," she called to a clown walking by. "Can you tell us where the painter Tiepolo lives?" "Near the church of San Felice," the clown said. "Thanks," said Annie. "But you won't find him home now," the clown called over his shoulder. "He's in Milan painting." "Where's that?" shouted Jack. "Over a day's ride on horseback," said the clown. Then he disappeared into the crowd. Said Annie. "Do you think Merlin wants us to go to Milan?" "We don't have time," said Jack. "I think we have to skip Tiepolo too." "Yeah," said Annie. "Hey, maybe we should just skip all the stuff and try to find the ruler of the seas on our own. Our letter says he's the only one who can help us save the Grand Lady." "I don't know," said Jack. "In his letter, Merlin tells us to be patient." But Annie was already calling to a pirate passing by. "Sir, do you know where we can find the ruler of the seas?" "What?" shouted the pirate. "The ruler. Do you know where he lives?" yelled Annie. "In the palace on St. Mark's Square," said the pirate. "Where's that?" Annie asked. But the pirate had disappeared into the crowd. "I'll look up St. Mark's Square," said Jack. He turned the pages of their book until he came to a map of Venice. "Oh, cool," he said. Jack loved maps. "Okay, let's see," Jack said. "We're here." He pointed to the walkway along the canal on the map. "And we want to go to the St. Mark's Square." He pointed to another place on the map. "It's really close." "Yeah, and it looks like everyone else is headed there too," said Annie. "Come on." "So if we go this way," said Jack. He traced the route with their finger. "Come on, Jack," called Annie. Jack looked up from the map. Annie was already walking with the crowd. Jack closed the book and hurried after her. Soon they came to a huge open square. "Wow," Jack said breathlessly. St. Mark's Square was filled with candlelight and musicians. Acrobats balanced on tight ropes. Boxers boxed in a ring. Knights fenced with swords. Clowns walked on tall stilts, raced wheelbarrows, and tried to catch live eels in their mouth. All around the square were candlelit buildings. Venice is beautiful, said Annie. Yeah, said Jack. He looked back at their book. He found an illustration of St. Mark's Square. Jack read the description of the buildings. The watchtower of St. Mark's Square is the tallest building in Venice. The weather vane on top once helped sailors by showing them which way the wind was blowing. Jack looked up. I can barely see the weather vane up there, he said, but I think it's pointing north, so the wind must be blowing from the south. What about the ruler's palace? Where's that? Asked Annie. Jack read on. The clock tower is one of the most beautiful towers in the world. On top of the tower, a bell is struck every hour by... Jack, skip to the ruler's palace, interrupted Annie. Please. Okay, said Jack. He read about the palace. The palace of Venice's ruler is one of the most splendid structures ever built. It has a great hall where as many as 2,000 nobles once met to discuss city matters. It also holds the city's grim prison cells. Above the palace door is a sculpture of St. Mark showing a book to a winged lion. There's the palace door, said Annie. Jack looked up from the map. Annie was heading toward a huge door with the sculpture of a man and a winged lion above it. Jack closed the book and hurried to catch up to her. A guard was standing by the palace door. The guard wore a uniform and held a rifle. Wait, Jack whispered. Is he a real guard, or is that just a costume? I'll find out, said Annie. She walked over to the guard. Excuse me, sir, is the ruler of Venice inside the palace now? Begone, clown, the guard said gruffly. But it's important, said Annie. We need to talk to him about something. I said begone, the guard growled. I'm tired of clowns wasting my time. She's not really a clown, said Jack, coming forward. We're on a mission. We... Go, both of you, or else, roared the guard. He held up his rifle. He's definitely not wearing a costume, thought Jack. Okay, sorry, said Jack. He and Annie moved away from the palace entrance. What a grouchy guy, said Annie. He'll never let us in, said Jack. Maybe it's time to use one of Teddy and Kathleen's rhymes, said Annie. Maybe we should turn into ducks. The guard wouldn't mind if a couple of ducks... No, said Jack. We have to save our rhymes. Well, how will we get inside? Annie asked. Patience, said Jack. Remember. Before he could finish, Annie broke in. Hey, look! 2 clowns on stilts were dancing around the guard. One grabbed the guard's rifle and tossed it to the other. Hey, the guard yelled, give that back! Now's our chance, said Annie. Quick! She ran to the entrance and slipped through the door. Oh no, oh man, said Jack. While the guard chased after the 2 clowns on stilts, Jack rushed to the doorway of the palace and slipped inside too. Chapter 4, Rats. Jack found Annie standing behind a column in a lantern-lit courtyard. The courtyard was quiet and empty. Everyone in Venice must be at carnival, said Jack. I just hope the ruler is home. Yeah, well, we'll ask him if he knows the Grand Lady of the Lagoon, said Annie, and we'll tell him he has to help us save her from a terrible disaster. Jack looked at the map of the palace. Several rooms were labeled Ruler's Living Chambers. I guess that's where he lives, said Jack. We have to go up some stairs called the Giant Stairs to get there. The Giant Stairs, said Annie. Yeah, said Jack. Listen to this. These stairs are called the Giant Stairs because they are guarded by 2 large statues of Roman mythology, Mars, the god of war, and Neptune, the god of the sea. Cool, said Annie. Let's go. Jack and Annie hurried down the passageway that ran along the courtyard until they came to a wide staircase. On either sides of the stairs were giant marble statues of strong-looking men. Mars and Neptune, said Jack. This is it. Come on. Jack and Annie quickly climbed the giant stairs. At the top, Jack looked at the map again. Now we turn right and head for the golden staircase, he said. Keeping an eye out for more guards, they crept down the hall until they came to a fancy staircase under a gold ceiling. There it is, said Jack. Let's climb up. He and Annie hurried up the golden staircase. When they got to the top, they froze. Another guard was slouched against the wall by the stairs. His eyes were closed and he was snoring softly. Jack motioned to Annie and they tiptoed past the sleeping guard to the entrance of the ruler's living chambers. Jack glanced at the map. This is it, he whispered. The door was open. Jack and Annie peeked inside. "Knock, knock," Annie said in a soft voice. No one answered. They stepped through the doorway. A fire blazed on the hearth. Overhead, many candles burned brightly. The dancing flames cast shadows on a marble floor and a carved gold ceiling. "I have a feeling the ruler's not here," said Annie. "Maybe we should leave." Jack looked at their book. "Wait, the next room is the map room," he said. "Let's just take a look." "Okay, but we'd better hurry," said Annie. Jack led the way into the map room. Colorful maps hung on the walls. In the middle of the floor were two huge globes. Jack sighed. "I love this room," he said. "Look, more lions," said Annie. She pointed to 3 paintings of winged lions on one of the walls. "Why are there lions with wings everywhere?" Jack looked up winged lions in their book. He turned to the right page and read, "The winged lion is the symbol of Venice. Represented in paintings and sculptures all over the city, the lions stand for strength on both land and sea." As Jack and Annie looked back up at the lion paintings, they heard footsteps. The grouchy guard and the sleepy guard rushed into the room. "Hi, we're looking," began Annie. "There they are, the thieves," the sleepy guard shouted at the grouchy guard. "I told you I heard voices." "We're not thieves," said Annie. "We were just looking for your ruler to ask for his help." "She's right," said Jack. "We have to tell him that." "Won't admit your crime, eh?" said the grouchy guard. "The worst cells are reserved for criminals like you. Move." "But we," shouted Annie. "Move," started the grouchy guard, raising his rifle and pointing to the door. Jack knew there was no use arguing. He took Annie's hand and led her out of the ruler's living chambers. The 2 guards walked behind them, pointing guns at their backs. "To the end of the hall and down the steps," growled the grouchy guard. Jack and Annie quickly walked down the hall, then down some steep, narrow steps. They moved through a low stone corridor, the guards close behind them. "Over the Bridge of Sighs," shouted the grouchy guard, "and be sure to sigh when you cross it, because you won't be coming back for a long time." Jack gripped Annie's hand as they crossed the covered footbridge to another building. Once inside, they started down a lantern-lit hallway filled with puddles. Jack's shoes felt squishy and soggy as he sloshed through the water. "Halt!" shouted the grouchy guard. Jack and Annie stopped in front of a heavy wooden door. The grouchy guard opened the door and pushed them into a dark, dank cell. The door slammed shut. Jack heard a heavy metal bolt clank into place. Then he heard the guards splash away down the hall, arguing with each other. The prison was eerily quiet. It was hard to breathe in the stale cell. It was hard to see, too. Only the dim light of the hallway stone faced through the barred window. Under the window was a wooden bench. "What now?" Annie asked in a small voice. For a moment, Jack couldn't answer. He was stunned. Minutes ago, they'd been at the bright carnival. Now they were locked in a dingy prison cell. I'll look in the book," he said. Jack felt shaky as he opened the research book. He moved close to the barred window to read by the dim light. He looked up prison in the index and found it and read aloud. The prison cells at ground level in the palace were called the potsi, meaning wells or pits. They were dank, airless, and filled with rats. Even the government eventually decided they were too cruel. Jack heard a squeak from a dark corner. He stopped reading and looked up. He heard the squeak again. The hair went up on his neck. Was that a rat, he wondered? Was that a rat, said Annie? The squeak came again from the dark corner. Then a squeak came from another corner. Jack heard rustling along the walls and more squeaking. "Oh man," he breathed. "There were rats everywhere." "I think it's time for magic," said Annie. "Yep," said Jack, "definitely." He kept his eyes on the dark corners while Annie reached into his backpack and pulled out Teddy and Kathleen's book. Annie read from the table of contents. "Make a stone come alive, make metal soft, turn into ducks." Annie looked up. "Are rats afraid of ducks?" she asked. "Forget ducks," said Jack. "Go back to make metal soft. That's what we need to do. You read the rhyme and I'll try to pull the bars apart." "Okay, good," said Annie. Jack jumped onto the wooden bench under the barred window. The squeaking grew louder. Jack reached up and felt the iron bars. They were cold and hard and very solid. Jack couldn't imagine bending them. Jack and Annie dodged away from them. The guards crashed into each other, falling to the floor. Ooh. I skipped a couple pages there, huh? The squeaks were getting louder. Jack gripped 2 bars in the middle of the window and took a deep breath. Read the rhyme, he said. Annie read aloud. Iron or copper, brass or steel, breathe on saw, grow on beal. As Annie finished the rhyme, the bars began to glow. They grew warmer in Jack's hands. I think it's working, he cried. Holding the bars tightly, Jack pulled in opposite directions. Slowly, the glowing bars began to stretch and bend. Jack pulled till there was an opening large enough for Annie and him to fit through. We did it, he cried. Great, hurry, hurry. The rats are coming, cried Annie as she jumped onto the bench. Jack heard a chorus of squeaks from all sides of the cell. He looked down. He saw the shadowy shapes of dozens of rats. They seemed to be sniffing the air before the window. Go, go, Jack cried to Annie. Annie squeezed between the bars and jumped down into the hallway. Jack followed her. He hit the wet floor and scrambled to his feet. Come on, he cried. Jack and Annie sloshed down the watery hallway. At the end of it, they nearly bumped right into the two guards. Jack and Annie kept running. Hey, the grouchy guard shouted, running after them. He reached for Jack, and the other guard tried to catch Annie. Jack and Annie dodged away from them. The guards crashed into each other, falling to the floor. Jack and Annie kept running. They dashed across the bridge of sighs. They ran through the corridor and up the steep stone steps. This way, cried Jack. He and Annie tore down the hall, heading for the golden staircase. Hey, hey, the guards yelled from far behind. Jack and Annie bounded down the golden staircase 2 steps at a time. They flew down the hall and down the giant stairs. They ran past the statues of Mars and Neptune and charged down the long open passageway. Finally, they dashed through the entrance of the palace and escaped into St. Mark's Square. All right, Jack and Annie got out of trouble once. Will they be able to keep it up? Find the Lady of the Lagoon? We'll keep reading. Bye, friends.